Hi everyone, welcome to FOREX Trading Empire live chart analysis. So this is another live chart analysis for those that have been going and coming online to go through this live chart analysis with me. So we're on the November 10th top down analysis. So last week I talked about price going for the buy side liquidity on Monday when we had the live stream last week. I talked about price going for the buy side liquidity that is primarily going to be my bias to see price go to run the buy side liquidity. So price took out the buy side liquidity. At the same time, I did a trade review, a top down analysis trade review, which was posted on Sunday, yesterday. I talked about the trade that I executed using the idea and how I took advantage of this counter trend trading lower. So if you haven't checked it, make sure you go through the video, which you can go through the YouTube channel. You can find a video last week trade review top down analysis. So going this week, I'm primarily focusing on how price will respect the daily fair value gap. I want to see how price will react to this daily fair value gap, how price will react to this breakers block. Those are my two main focus going in this week on the dollar index. If price were to respect the daily fair value gap, then I want to see a run on the buy side liquidity running out this high. I want to see a trend continuation trading higher. But at the same time, I'm still taking account of price running this buy side liquidity, which might lead to a shift in structure. So there's still a possibility of a shift in structure. Seeing price trading through this daily fair value gap, just like how I explained in the review, the top down analysis review, where price traded through this daily fair value gap, where I was looking for a counter trend to this daily fair value gap. If price were to do the same to this daily fair value gap, then I'll be anticipating lower prices. But my primary bias is to see price go for the buy side liquidity. Now, depending on how today's Monday will be trading before the close of the daily candle, if price were to respect the daily fair value gap, trade higher, I want to see that 1 hour trend and 4 hour trend stay in line with the idea of going for the buy side liquidity. Then I'll be looking for a trade continuation. And I'll be looking at how price will be reacting to this daily fair value gap. Focus on how price will be reacting to this daily fair value gap. If price were to trade through the daily fair value gap, high probability setup to run the buy side liquidity. But going this week, seeing how price reacts to the daily fair value gap will be very, very important to determine on those special times for you to take those trades. But if price was to trade below the daily fair value gap, then I'll be looking for a counter trend going for the other block. Now, with the strategy that have a high probability of playing out is price respecting the daily fair value gap. If price were to respect the daily fair value gap, I can say that is a high probability to go for the buy side liquidity, and this might be a discount price. Using a fib to measure the price range, you can see here's the mid range to the discount. In discount price, price is still at a premium, so there's still a chances of price trading lower. That was the reason I still have the idea that if price were to trade below the daily fair value gap, then I will look at it as a deep retracement to the other block. Now, this other block you can use from these candles. I just picked this specific candle, but at the same time, I'm still paying attention to this candle. At the same time, paying attention to the inversion fair value gap. How price will react to this inversion fair value gap. You can see they are well aligned, so that was the reason I marked out this other block because it's inside the inversion fair value gap. But these are the areas that I would look for price to support from. But if price were to violate this area, trade below, take out sell side liquidity, then that led to a complete shift. So depending on how price will be trading this week, but my primary bias is to see price go for the buy side liquidity. On the 1 hour time frame, price open traded below the new week opening gap. I'm not looking for a sell till I see price trade below the daily fair value gap. If I'm looking for a sell, which means I'm not taking advantage of any sell going lower. In fact, I'll be hoping the price will trade higher to the idea of price going for the buy side liquidity above. So we might see a push higher going above this new week opening gap and might lead to a complete trend higher. So just pay attention to what price will be doing. Make sure you understand those lower time frame trend before taking advantage of any setup or sticking to the idea of price going for the buy side liquidity. You need to see price stay above the daily fair value gap. If price goes below the daily fair value gap, even if it's a week, as long as price is filling in this daily fair value gap, then my bias was to see lower prices to the inversion daily fair value gap and the other block. So price is still above the daily fair value gap, not filling the daily fair value gap. If this trend were to continue to run this highs and led to a shift in structure, then I'll be looking for higher prices for price to go for the buy side liquidity. At the same time, paying attention to how price will react to this fair value gap and the inversion fair value gap. Now, overall bias on the dollar is to see higher prices, right? And taking that in account, going into currencies like the Euro USD, you know that they are correlated pairs, so which means you're looking for the inverse correlation to it. So you're looking for higher prices, there's the chances of a lower prices in Euro USD. Now on Euro USD, the bias is currently looking bullish of a retracement to a premium liquidity. It's currently looking bullish of a retracement to the premium liquidity. Currently priced at a premium, but there's no fair value gap in price that I will look as a fair value gap for price to retrace from. But at the same time, there's an order block, but the order block is above the 0.75 level. So if price were to retrace to that order block, that would lead to a deep retracement on the dollar index trading lower. Having that in mind, seeing that price is at the 50% range, if I were to look for lower prices, I need to see price go below this daily fair value gap. If price goes below the daily fair value gap, use it as a resistance level to trade lower to run the sell side. Then I will be taking trades on Euro USD. But if Euro USD keeps on trading higher, then my overall idea is to see price trade to the 0.75 level. But at the same time, I'm paying attention to the dollar index fair value gap. Once price violates the dollar index fair value gap, trades through the dollar index fair value gap, then I'll be looking for that higher prices on Euro USD to go for the other block. But if price were to stay above the fair value gap, then on Euro USD, I want to see price trade lower, use it as a resistance level to trade lower to run sell side liquidity. So I normally take account of correlation whenever I'm doing my overall bias to understand that dollar has the most power when it comes to forex pairs like Euro USD, GBP USD, and USD JPY. So taking account of those correlation is very important. Thinking of how those correlation will play a role in that currency current price data or current price action. So on Monday, opening price, make sure you mark out your opening price gap if there's a gap in price. Here's the gap, and here's the opening price. I normally make it white so that I can easily go through my charts without messing it up. So on the 1 hour price traded above new week opening gap, kind of supported on the new week opening gap a little bit before trading higher. Failed to run this high, although I was looking for an intraday setup for price to run this high. But I stopped looking for the setup once I looked at the way dollar was reacting to a new week opening gap. There's a probability of this price trading lower. At the same time, I told you guys if price were to trade lower, daily fair value gap, resistance area, looking for lower prices to run the sell side liquidity. That's my primary bias. But if price were to trade against the daily fair value gap, which I've mentioned on the dollar index, to trade to fill in the daily fair value gap to trade lower, then I'll be looking for higher prices on Euro USD. And my next draw on liquidity is to see price go above the 0.75 level to trade to the other block. As simple as that. Now, this week is a little bit complicated because this is one of the most delicate time for you to have those key patience to wait for price to deliver correctly before actually taking a trade. So you can't just go aggressively into this week price data. You need to pay attention to mostly the news events. Wait for those key news events to give you a clear direction on where price is going. Those are very important. So weeks like this, I normally pay attention. I don't trade Monday weeks like this where there isn't a clear perspective in price. On the dollar index, there's a clear perspective of price trading higher, right? But at the same time, if that other block fails to hold price, that will lead to other currency trading to the inverse correlation to the dollar. GBP USD, let's go to the daily time frame. On the daily time frame of GBP USD, last week I talked about price filling in, trading to this daily fair value gap. At the same time, I was still hoping for price to fill in the daily fair value gap. Although price used it as a support area to trade higher, price used as a support area to trade higher, and there might be chances of price retracing higher. Remember, you need to take account of correlation. Pairs that are correlated like this, because if the dollar index is trading higher, then the GBP USD will be trading lower. It's kind of the same to Euro USD when it comes to correlation. So putting that in mind, going in this week, we can see the price from the swing low, trade above daily fair value gap, use it as an inversion fair value gap to trade higher. And the next drawn liquidity is this daily fair value gap. If you were to place your fib from the swing high to the swing low, currently price is above the, I can say 0.25 level, above the first quadrant, and the next drawn liquidity to a premium liquidity is this daily fair value gap. So you can say the bias is slightly the same to Euro USD. So there might be a chances of price going for the daily fair value gap. And if there's a chances of price going for the daily fair value gap, and we might see a retracement to that daily fair value gap. But clearly on GBP USD, my bias is to see price go for the daily fair value gap if you were to trade against the idea of dollar trading higher. But if we were to stay with the idea and price trades lower on the on GBP USD, then I'll be looking for this fair value gap to serve as an resistance area, trade below. But at that time, price must have already run out the sell side liquidity. So as I explained, this is a week for you to pay attention for just price correlation before actually taking a trade, waiting for those clear trades before actually taking a trade, which you can see the complication going in on GBP USD because there isn't any fair value gap for price to use as a resistance area to trade lower. The next drawn liquidity is for price to trade higher. And if this price were to trade higher, the dollar will be trading lower and it might lead to price trading below the fair value gap on the dollar index. 1 hour time frame of GBP USD. On the 1 hour time frame, so I talked about me taking a trade on the trade review. So I took a buy from the inversion fair value gap for price to trade higher. That was a quick trade we took on Friday. And you can have access to that trade on the Signal group if you want to take advantage of trades that I'm actually taking and how I take advantage of this carbon analysis that I'm explaining. You have access to the trade on the Signal group. So currently on the new week opening gap, let's mark out the new week opening gap, closing price and opening price. There isn't much of a new week opening gap on GBP USD. But we can see the price trade above the new week opening cap. Look at this high. Look at Friday's high. Retracement. Price might use this as a support to trade higher. I mostly want to see how price will trade on Monday, but still the same idea. The idea I will favor most on the GBP USD is to see price go for the daily fair value gap. That is mostly the idea we'll be focusing on. But if price were to trade lower, then I'll be hands off this currency till I see price go below this fair value gap, because this fair value gap might still act as an inversion fair value gap to push price higher. So I see price go below before I would say to the idea of price trading lower, and I might look for lower prices to run out this low and to fill in the daily fair value gap. So make sure you take account of key points that I'm putting in on how we approach this week, which I've talked about this week not being much of a favorable week for you to go aggressive. You need to pay attention to what price is doing. Look for those key features that will give you a high probability setups and align it with an intraday setup, align it with those day trading setup for you to have a high probability setup. So whenever this daily bias or the overall weekly trend, which I'm pointing out on my own personal idea, is aligned with your day trading bias, those are the times where you go into your lower time frame to look for trades. Daily time frame of USD JPY. USD JPY last week price trade through this daily fair value gap, retraced to the daily order block. Currently, price is respecting the daily order block, trading higher. And price going for this buy side liquidity is kind of possible. But if this price were to trade higher, it should be aligned with the dollar index, because if the dollar index trades higher, then the USD JPY do trades higher. Kind of the same correlation. They trade on the same direction. So that gave me a strong bias of me anticipating higher prices, because the USD JPY is respecting the daily order block and might lead to higher prices for price to run the buy side liquidity. On the 1 hour time frame, you can see auto block respected the other block, shift in structure, retracement, fair value gap, respected the fair value gap, at the same time stayed above the other block, respected the other block, traded higher, new week opening. Now, seeing the way price is reacting to the new week opening gap, you can say this is a strong bias of price trading higher, because price open traded above the new week opening gap, traded back to the new week opening gap, respected it, used it as a support, trading higher, which means the draw on liquidity should be swing high and swing high. So draw on liquidity, which I've talked about, swing high and swing high. So there's a chance of price going for those draw on liquidity. So if you want me to check on any currency pair, you can recommend any currency pair if you want me to check on those currency pair before I um close the live stream. So there's a comment of me checking out gold. So last week I checked gold, and based off my own personal idea, I think price did not trade, I can say, directly to the way I was anticipating price to trade. Price did a little bit bias against my own bias before later aligning with the idea, but did not run out the overall liquidity I was talking about. So let's go to that currency pair. Let's go to the currency pair and see how price is trading in that currency pair. So let's go to gold. So on gold on the 1 hour time frame, on the daily time frame, first I pointed out a retracement higher. I told you guys, seeing the price traded to this daily fair value gap, not respecting the daily fair value gap. My next draw on liquidity is to see higher prices going for the daily fair value gap, going overall to the daily fair value gap. I told you guys that was a draw on liquidity. But last week on Monday, price traded lower. Let's look at it more closer on the 1 hour time frame. Let me explain why I said price did trade to my buyers, but it was later on around Thursday and Friday that price did trade to the buyers. But the other block I was looking for price to use for a support, price did not use that block. In fact, price used it as a sell side liquidity. So on Monday, I was talking about price staying above this other block and this other block, and the drawn liquidity should be the high going for this high. These are individual days. These are daily breakers to indicate individual days. So on Monday, price stayed above, as I explained, but on Tuesday, price traded lower, took out the lows. At the same time, price traded to this other block, respected the other block. This was the other block price used for the support, because the reason I say it did not respected the point of interest I was pointing out was the points that price traded below this other block. But price later traded to the buyers. You can see price respected the other block, traded higher on Thursday, kept the trend, and on Friday price consolidated. I thought price Friday was the time for price to run the high, but I can see price used Monday to run the high. So I mostly look at gold. I don't trade gold personally. I just did the analysis last week because there was a comment on the last live stream. I think it was the previous live table analysis that you guys recommended me to go through gold to try to explain on where I'm currently looking at price to trade to. So going further, I'm still looking for higher prices on gold for price to trade to the daily fair value gap. The bias is still the same because there's not much of a change. It's just price seeking out more liquidity before actually reversing. And you can see you can should have taken advantage of this price action if you were looking using that idea which I explained in the video. This area you should have taken advantage of the other block, price respecting the other block to trade higher. And after the shift, I can say the trend have constantly respected not going below the swing lows, kept the swing lows intact, trading higher. So this week you might see a complete trade going higher to run the daily fair value gap. But personally, I don't trade gold, so I wouldn't be saying that I'll be posting the trades on the Signal group. You'll only be getting trade in the Signal group on Euro USD, GBP USD, and USD JPY. So that is it for this video for this live table analysis. See you guys on next week table analysis, which is on Monday.